Woo! This is work. It's hot out here too. Doing a little bit of laundry because we didn't think to do it in the washing machines when we were at Nassau. And after probably 2 weeks of living aboard, just suddenly one day everything is greasy and dirty and so covered with salt it won't dry out. So we're taking a laundry day, cleaning, we're scrubbing everything. I cleaned the spark plugs on the outboard and adjusted the idle a little bit. I pulled the dinghy apart and removed all the sand from underneath the floor and all of the grease and slime that had dripped down there from the engine, and just, it was a mess in there, but that's all cleaned out now. This is just our sheets and pillowcases. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed even to look at it. Yeah. Yep. And we're making some water. I'm cooking some beans in here in my little improvised solar oven. It's not really hot. You know, it's 90 degrees in there, so it's a good temperature. They're not cooking per se, but they're definitely soaking at a nice temperature. I love pinto beans. I've really been missing them out here. And we got lots of rice, so we might as well cook up some beans while we're sitting here. It feels so heavenly when I finally get the sheets washed and dried. You lay down on your bed and the sheets aren't sticky or dirty feeling. They're just crisp and clean. They smell like laundry soap. They smell a little extra like laundry soap, usually because it's hard to get them rinsed. But it's worth it. There's nothing nastier than being hot and sweaty and you just can't quite get dry and clean, and you lay down on your bed and it feels greasy and dirty. Ugh. $10 gallons is nothing for laundry. You just cruise through it. I mean, it takes 2 gallons just to get a sheet soaking wet, let alone do something about washing it clean. Then they're so hard to wring out, like you get them sopping wet and you can't go to the next, rinse stage of laundry when it's still full of soap and dirty water, so you gotta wring it out. That's just a chore. Hard on my wrists, but it's not so bad. I got a nice view anyhow. Look at that water. That's rinse number 1. Not even, well, that's not every sheet, but I'm gonna dump it out because it's just foul looking water. I don't want to put half washed laundry back into something that looks like that. Gross. But I'm so grateful we have a water maker, because you just can't do this in salt water. Just wouldn't work. The hardest part about this laundry is wringing stuff out. But that works pretty good. Just fold it in half and give it a good twist, and it gets it pretty dry actually. Next thing, I'm gonna string everything up and see if we can get it dry in this hot sun. Now we look just a little like a Chinese laundry boat. Laundry everywhere. All of that laundry worked me up an appetite. So I'm frying up a little bit of vegetables here. And I've got just a little bit of rice left from last night that I'll put with it. Yeah. That's good.
What's in it?
There's carrots and potatoes and zucchini and cabbage and pineapple and rice all fried together with a good teriyaki flavor. It's really yummy. It's hot. We spent a few days back at Rose Island, working on a few projects and waiting for a good weather window to return back to the Exumas. We've got a little engine checkup going on, checking the oil, filters, that sort of thing. We broke a bolt that holds the alternator on, which is why it's been squeaking. The belt's been squeaking occasionally. So
for like a month now. It started squeaking that night of that storm.
Yeah, that's true. Under high load, it gets a little squeaky now and then, and it's been getting progressively worse. Whenever the batteries are drained a bit and the alternator is really putting out a high amount of torque, the belt was slipping. So I started to tighten it up. I thought about replacing it, putting the new belt on that we have. And what I found was there was a broken bolt and the belt was extremely loose. It wasn't quite this loose, of course. I've loosened the bracket, but it was loose enough that I'm surprised it worked at all. And this little guy broke off and was stuck in here. Don't have an easy out. That's the engine crankcase actually. So I'm drilling it out and I'm gonna through bolt it, which will be stronger anyway with a larger bolt, so it's gonna work out great in the end. That is a big bag of chips.
Breakfast. Chips for breakfast. It's so good. You want some?
Yeah. We just left Rose Island, which is right next to Nassau, and we're heading back across the banks, and back across the Yellow Bank, that is. And it's a nice tailwind all the way this time, so it's gonna work out pretty well. We're doing 5.5 knots, just cruising along with just the jib out. It was a pretty rough morning there. We were on the windward side of the island, so we were up against the lee shore, which we knew was going to happen right about dawn. So we kicked up anchor and hightailed it out of there along with the other 4 boats. They were anchored there as well. But it got us a good start, nice and early. We were anchored fairly close to shore, right in front of a beach. It was a nice anchorage because the anchorage was fairly deep, probably 10 or 12 feet, right up to like 15 feet from the actual sandy beach. So you could get really close to it. When the wind swung us around, tail right up to the beach, we weren't that far from the beach, maybe 40 feet, but still that's pretty close to be anchored to the beach break. But when Kenzie pulled the anchor, we kind of drifted beam to the wind, and I throttled up to head us into the wind and away from the beach, and just as we did that, a big gust of wind came in, probably 20-25 knots, pretty strong. And it was just all we could do to get the nose of the boat back into the wind before we landed on the beach or got pinned up against the coral reef, which was right next to us. There is a lot of swell out here. So that was a little bit of excitement, but the boat handled it well, as always. And now we're on our way. This is pretty calm sailing for the conditions. It's blown about 15 knots with a pretty steep chop and a bit of a swell, but we're running with it at 5 knots, so it makes the wind feel like 10 knots and it makes the swells feel like they're moving at about 1 mile per hour, so it's pretty gentle. If we were to turn around, we'd be bashing our heads into the waves every 3 seconds, but heading downwind, this is just beautiful sailing, and we're just cruising, making great speed. We've got 2 months left until the hurricane season starts. We really want to see the Abacos. It's high on our list, but we didn't feel like we needed 2 whole months just to see the Abacos. We didn't want to get up there midway through the Abacos, realize, you know, we had a little more time than we needed to see them and wished we'd gone further south to check some things out instead. So we're gonna head south for just a couple of weeks, see if we can make it to the Ragged Islands. Whether we'll make it all the way or not, we'll see. And then head north back up to the Abacos and maybe touch Eleuthera on the way through and see a little bit of everything. That way we really get a chance to see a little bit of some of the out islands of the Bahamas as well. We made it smoothly back to Highbourne Key, but with the swells rolling in from the west, our previous anchorage would have been uncomfortably rolly. We decided instead to motor through Highbourne Cut and take an anchorage on the backside of South Oyster Keys for the night.